What is up, everybody? Before this podcast begins, and I'm sorry to interrupt it, we just want to thank some of our sponsors because without them, we definitely would not be where we are today.
Here are our sponsors: GK Calls, Migra Ammunition, Point Malay Waterfowl Festival, Gator Decoys, Flipping Bird Apparel, Firebolt Game Calls, Gibraltar Duck Hunters Association.
So, again, I am sorry for interrupting the podcast, but again, without these amazing companies and organizations, we would not be where we are today. So, I hope you guys enjoy this week's podcast, and here you go. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Great Lakes Outdoors podcast. Sitting here with Chris. Chris, what's going on?
Not a whole lot. Pretty excited for this one.
Yeah, we're gonna get into some. Yeah, we're gonna get into some deep stuff. I feel like, and some very good topics from some local Michigan guys. We got Jeff and Kyle Green here from Greenway Outdoors. Yep. Mm-hmm. How you guys doing, man?
Doing good. Happy to be here.
I was gonna say, there you are already,
without
the whole thing. Yeah.
I was roasting Jeff because on our podcast he refuses to talk in the mic.
I think this is the way to go. Because now I feel like Bob Barker, so now I'm ready for the Showcase Showdown.
Without the ladies.
It's hard though, man, because like I do want to use both hands. I feel like Trump sometimes when I'm using like both hands or whatever it may be, but then you get to move around with it and do whatever you want. Don't get freaky with it. All right?
We got just the arm that just sits right in front of your face, and you can like emote kinda, but your head can't move.
Right.
So it's,
right.
This is better.
And I will say too, we might be slow in the beginning because we just had our own off the air podcast right before we even started any of this, so it's just going to be a little bit different for us. Yeah. But you guys want to just kind of open it up to what Greenway Outdoors is and who you guys are, where you guys are from, and just a little background for the people that don't know you guys.
Sure, go ahead, Jeff.
This is you all day. What do you mean, go me?
I was trying to build them
Putting
up.
you on the spot.
So we're a TV show on the History Channel. It's called The Greenway Outdoors, and we've been in business for about 9 years now. The team that's with me now has been the same team that's been with me since day one.
That's huge.
So we all pooled our money together. Everyone in my company is an owner of the company, and we've worked our butts off for the first 4 or 5 years to finally get some traction. Eventually, our dream came true, and we got on a major network with History Channel. We travel the world going on hunting and fishing adventures. We've been everywhere you can think of, and we're always chasing like conservation stories, cool cultures, good food, learning how to prepare wild game the way people do in different areas and regions. And we've gone on some incredible adventures from Hawaii to Maine to Alaska and everywhere in between.
And we're getting ready to go to South Africa and Scotland, and we got some huge stuff coming.
Yeah, Scotland's going to be cool for red deer. So that's the main TV show. We pride ourselves on the production quality, and my team works 7 days a week in order to push themselves to be the best they can be. We wake up, we have a cold plunge at our office, and that's we're all just hella focused on making the absolute best product possible. That's what I live, sleep, breathe, and eat.
While talking about the show, did you just throw out a hella?
Yeah, I did. I did. It's in my vocab.
How is that cold plunge? Because not to cut you off with we got Mike from Flipping Birds that like comes out once in a while. He does a cold plunge every morning and says it's like the best thing ever.
Yeah, it's really good for you. So it helps.
That's what he said.
It helps with a lot of things from inflammation to blood flow. It's not. I mean, it is such a mind clearing extravaganza. When you get in, first things first is like it feels like it's impossible to get in. When you're
100%.
looking at you're breaking up ice and you're going to get in it, your whole body says you can't do that.
I'm sure it does. I'm sure you're saying it's like, I'm not doing it.
That equals death, and your mind believes it. I can't even express it. Even when you think you're going to be a man and you're going to go do it, as soon as you get out there, your body's like, don't do it. So then you have to tell your mind, I'm in charge. You're not. When I ture you we're going to do something, we're going to do it. You get in, and the initial minute is painful and shocking and just overwhelming. It's hard to catch your breath. You get better at it as you go. It certainly gets easier.
Sure.
The goal is to hit 3 minutes. The health benefits really kick in around the 12-minute mark per week.
I was going to say 12.
12 minutes per week is what you want.
You know what I'm saying with that one. I was like, 12 minutes a day. What the heck?
You want it to be 48 degrees or less. We've been doing in the 30s.
Okay.
And then when it's really cold out, we got to break the ice off of it because we're in Michigan. But the health benefits are incredible as far as blood flow, inflammation, circulation. It helps with testosterone. It helps with, there's a huge dopamine release as well that lasts for like 4 to 6 hours. It would be like whatever if you smoke cigarettes or if you, drink energy drinks or whatever it is that gives you that dopamine rush that you get.
Right.
It is like 4 to 5 times that, and it carries throughout the day. The other thing is like when you tell your mind it's going to do something that feels impossible, the effects throughout the rest of your day as far as accomplishing tasks, everything becomes easier, and your brain gives in easier.
Right.
It's less likely to get distracted. It's such a big difference now. I'm terrified to lose it. It's like when we go somewhere for 21 days, I'm like, man, I hope I can figure out a way to put enough ice in a bath to still get that.
Right.
Because it becomes like a drug. It's miserable while you're doing it, but it's like, I need that focus. It's incredible. So I'm a big believer. I started doing it because Joe Rogan said to, and then it ended up panning out for us. So we've got that at the office. My point of that was how focused everyone is. We have a weekly video podcast, which is on YouTube, Waypoint TV, and anywhere you find your podcasts. And then we also have a weekly vlog. We have another TV show coming out very soon that people don't even know about. We just signed for 2 more seasons with History Channel. First one will come out in September in the following this year. And then the following year, we don't know the dates yet, but there'll be another one on History Channel there. We've got a how-to video series on YouTube and our website where, for how to tie a fishing knot, safety, gun safety basics and everything like that. So we build that out. We actually work with different organizations to have that as part of curriculum in high schools because can't take guns into high schools to do the classes anymore.
Right.
So our work helps teach those kids gun safety and those sorts of things in class. And that's pretty much our brand. I guess that would be, those are our main pillars and those are our team.
Yeah, you nailed it.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff.
Good job.
No, that's pretty important though. I mean, there's a lot of people that are getting into the outdoor world per se and don't know the ins and outs or the small things. They just kind of see these videos and it's the same videos over and over on YouTube or the Outdoor Channel, the History Channel, and you guys' sake, whatever it may be, where they're finding their, I don't know, the root of why they're wanting to get into something.
Sure.
And, like the tying of a knot or something like that. Just not a lot of people talk about that, I guess, which is important.
That's one of our goals is that people can watch our show and then at the end of each episode they can go, well, if those 2 idiots can do it, then I'm sure I can do it.
Right. Being able to reach the youth is just a special thing.
Yeah.
Not even the youth, they're just beginners into like the hunting world is very overlooked, I should say.
And it's overlooked for the wrong reasons because 60% of hunting and fishing licenses are sold to white males over the age of 55 in our state. If we don't replace that demographic in 10 to 12 years, we're going to see a drop-off of 60% of our funding because it's 55 and up. So there's a lot of 70-year-olds in there. There's a lot of 80 years old in there. And because of that, once that funding goes away and 60% of our funding goes away, we're not going to have the money we need for species sustainability efforts. We're not going to have it for anti-poaching efforts. We're not going to have it for our fisheries, and we're not going to have it for our national forests, our national parks, things that people don't even hunt, enjoy. 60% is going away. And that is what drives me every day. That's what wakes me up is I have to figure out how to sell more hunting and fishing licenses in order to keep the future what it's going to be and also prevent any sell-off of our public lands because that's really important too.
Now, in your guys's, so the DNR is actually brought up, I think he failed once and then got brought up again about the prices of tags going up.
Yeah.
Because of it's one big pot, right? The DNR is getting one big pot, and then they spread it out to Point Malay or Fish Point or Harson's Island for that, and everything gets spread out. And so it's almost already starting with the decrease of licenses, I feel like. How do you guys feel about that with like the DNR in Michigan itself increasing pricing?
It's a little complicated. The answer isn't as simple as yes or no to increasing licenses. When you talk to hunters around the state, the overwhelming pushback on it is like they already get so much money and I'm not seeing what they're doing with it. Okay. Right. So that's the pushback on people. And I think what we would have to look at is something along the lines of like what our federal government is doing right now. It's like, do you feel comfortable paying your federal taxes right now after you've seen what they've been wasting the money on? So you have Doge go in and clean house with a lot of the waste. Now, some of the programs or some of the things everybody might not agree with getting rid of. Sure. But there is waste and nobody should want waste. Everybody should agree on that.
Right.
So when we look at something like the Department of Natural Resources, I think we have to say, okay, how is the money being spent? how is it being utilized? And our hunters who are funding it, are their voices being heard?
It's huge.
Because I think if our voices are heard and the relationship between the Department of Natural Resources made sense and we felt like they were fighting for us, there's laws that aren't necessarily the DNR's fault, but people are really upset about. We can't hunt sandhill cranes, but it makes perfect logical sense to manage it the way we do turkeys, but we're not doing it. We can't hunt doves. The doves have nothing to do with the DNR. Nothing to do. It's not their fault. However, for us to spend the money on the licenses and we're not seeing what we want in return, that is where it becomes a problem. The problem is even bigger than the license sales, and I think the DNR is really piss poor at explaining this problem, and I haven't actually heard anyone articulate it besides myself.
Right.
It's two parts. Part number one is the 60% are sold to white males of the age 55. Here's the secondary part. The people that hunt now aren't just going up for deer hunting for 3 days. The duck hunters that duck hunt. You asked me, were you at Point Muay this year? Because you knew you were there 15 times. You might have run into me. The hunters that are getting involved are very involved. They're using the public lands. They're elk hunting 6 weeks a season versus the guy that used to go 3 or 4 days. So competition on public lands, and that's you see Steve Rinella and his brother arguing all the time because they're from 2 different camps, right?
Right.
So what you have to understand is that the hunters that are involved now are way more involved in doing way more and utilizing the resource way more than hunters of past. So if we want to get to the numbers game, we need to sell enough licenses. If we increase it with the same amount of super go-getter hunters that we have now, we're going to outcompete ourselves. And that's what people are seeing on public lands. That's why Harson's Island has 150 parties in the morning. We're seeing that. So I think there's a longer problem happening, and I think it's that 60% of the funding is going to go away. And the hunters that are here that make up the other 40% are very involved. They're out every weekend and sometimes on weekdays. What's the answer? We need more public lands and more access. That's what solves that problem. And if there is more public lands and more access, then you're going to see hunters willing to pay that more price. So I don't have a direct answer, but that's the big problem.
Circle of it. Well, it's tough nowadays too because of all the solar fields that are going in, the windmills that are going in, taking away all that land that could potentially be state land for hunters to use.
Windmills are really, really, really bad for the environment. People don't know it.
Well, solar panels are the same thing. Yeah, I mean, it's all bad in a sense.
Solar panels can be done right, like on top of a house or something.
Correct.
Yeah, we're seeing it a lot where we hunt.
It's horrible. It's horrible, and they're taking not just small pieces. They're taking, I think the one what you're talking about is, I think it's a 1,000-acre parcel that they took.
Jeez.
And I don't know. It's a scary thing for state land in the future, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But why do you think personally the 40% of the younger crew now, the younger guys and girls that are in hunting are that devoted to the hunting compared to what it used to be? What is your opinion on that?
Steve Rinella's brother blames it on social media, that they're social media driven because they want to get that picture, they want to get that thing, but I don't buy that. I think possibly.
Was that your stomach?
I think that was his stomach.
Oh, okay. Just make sure.
I think possibly there's a set, like when I go out and hunt turkeys, I remember that in 1960 the turkey was almost extinct.
Mm-hmm.
So like when I go out to get a turkey every year, it's almost like, this sounds almost bad, but I got to go get mine because I don't know if they'll be here in 10 years. I don't know if they'll be here in 20 years. It's almost like a fear-driven, like I have to turkey hunt because my grandfather didn't get to. Like I don't know if they'll always be here. I have that weird itch when it comes to turkeys. So I almost wonder if people are encompassing the lifestyle more because, especially after COVID, like eating organic, harvesting your own meat, self-farming at home and those sorts of things. Perhaps that drives it more. Mm-hmm. So it's more of a sustainability thing. And then I think also there's like the 40% feel like we're fighting against the system to keep our rights to be able to hunt. And we're just it's like more of a lifestyle than it used to be. There's also careers in it now that didn't exist before.
I think that's a big thing too, for sure.
A
lot of that though is I feel like I'm not going to totally disagree with the social media because there are a lot of people in the social media world that just want the pile picture of birds or want the biggest time and they just want to show that off and he's the best at this and he's the best at that. And
do you think it's driving them to go hunt though?
Some, I would assume so. Yeah, because
I'm there for the food. And you can ask anyone who's hunted with me. I'm there for the meat.
But in your generation is different from like the younger generation. The younger generation on YouTube videos and anywhere they look up hunting reels, and this is just my opinion, obviously, they're seeing the piles from all the guide services that are posting these videos. They're seeing successful hunts. They're not seeing a lot of the unsuccessful things. So they always think that, it's always good and dandy on everything, when in reality it's not.
Do you think that's a maturity thing, or do you think that's a social media thing? Because I think
That's
of me
a good
when I was
point.
16, I would have done anything for a limit. Not anything, but I'm like,
It's probably a little of both, though.
Pretty close.
Yeah. I think, $20,
Yeah.
man. No. I think yes and no, but I think that's also like the stages of hunting, like
agreed.
the four
That's what I'm saying,
stages.
it's like, and I guess that's why I don't blame it on social, because I like chalk that up. Like if I was 16,
Yeah.
my mentality would have been the same.
But I will say though, too,
That's definitely you're getting dopamine off posting it.
Yes,
So anytime
100%.
You're getting dopamine.
100%.
That is a drug.
I will say, if there was more people that were in it for giving back, there wouldn't be as many organizations and groups in the state that are they don't have enough people. Like we talk to a lot of people that can't go to Point Moulet because they don't have enough people to send 2 or 3 people to the show every year. So if there was enough people that were in it for that
the
reason,
Waterfowl Festival,
Yes.
or
well, just any show in general wise, if there was enough people that actually wanted and were out hunting for the give back, I guess, or for the right reasons per se, there wouldn't be a problem with less people in those groups.
I think that's a beautiful statement, because just like that 60% that I was talking about, what drives me every day and like getting that audience in, it's also teaching. That's why we work so hard to include the conservation messaging in every episode. For instance, we went to the Coca-Cola Woods. I don't know if you're familiar. It's in Arkansas. It's that and Tony Vandermoor's are probably the two Habitat Flats are probably the 2 biggest. Like,
Okay, I gotcha.
So we got to go there and do a hunt. We were with Boss and Delta Waterfowl, and then we're going to be making hen houses, which is their form of like duck boxes.
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
will. We're going to be making hen houses, teaching people how to do it, showing them where we're putting it up and why, and like educating on that in the show. And like we try to do that to instill people to want to get back. I do feel like I hope that people still see it this way. I can only speak for myself, but it was like when I got those ducks, I was so grateful to go home and cook them for my family. I was so pumped and excited about it. They probably tasted terrible because I didn't know what I was doing then.
Right.
but
Chewing
I
on
was
my shoe.
I was so excited and grateful for it that it was like I was like, how do I make sure this always happens?
Right.
So it's like that obviously grew into my whole life,
Right.
you know. And I hope that for the same. But it's like mine and yours responsibility. That if we're going to produce content, whether it be your podcast or your social content and stuff, is
Right.
that we're always driving that message home, and all you can do is plant that seed and then give people opportunities to water it.
Go ahead.
I think that's huge what we do with GDHA, though. Gibraltar
Yeah,
Duck Ranch.
GDHA, Point Moulet. I mean, there's a lot of organizations locally that do that. But again, a lot of these organizations, they have a older crowd, which nothing wrong with that, obviously. But you don't see a lot of younger generations going into that. You don't see a lot of younger guys giving back to the grounds that they hunt on every day.
That could
We're
be the
struggling with that. Kyle and I, we get new guys in there and they leave. They don't want to be a part of it.
Which get in where?
Like
Into
for-
these groups and whatnot to get back to conservation and whatnot.
What do they say? Why or?
They just don't want to.
I think
They don't have the time. They don't have the desire to do it.
Yeah,
I think that's.
and I
what
think
it
it's
is.
more of that social media, or they want to
they'll
be
show up when you say you got a spot for ducks.
yes.
Oh yeah, all day.
So it's just they're wanting that post, they're wanting that refreshment of
Dopamine.
exactly. So to an extent, yes, it is the 4 stages, but on the other hand, you have a lot of younger guys that could do more. I don't know. It's such a debatable thing per se.
You look at I said 1960 for the turkey. You can say the same year for geese.
Geese,
like
right?
60s and
Yeah.
70s. You know, you saw one. You're like, oh wow, there
Right.
goes one. Oh, how beautiful, majestic.
Right.
Now they call them flying rats, but at the time, a lot of these older guys that you're talking about lived through all that.
Yeah.
So it's like
The good
they're
old
like,
days, quote unquote.
hey man, you might not get
Right.
this isn't going to be forever. So they have that same mentality I have about the turkey. They
Right.
have that, and it's sad. What do they say? What president was it that said the thing that would unite the entire world is if like aliens tried to invade or whatever? Because then we'd all come together against a common enemy. It's almost like you don't want this to happen, but you almost need like a fear thing of like, hey, the ducks aren't going to be coming this year, so you better do something about it. I don't want that to happen. I'm not wishing that on anything, but it's like that older generation probably still scared over them witnessing it going away.
Yeah.
Well, that's a thing
Lake
too.
Erie on fire. You guys know.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing though too, where it might be there in front of people, just like how many mallard ducks, like full bred mallards, or I should just say, backtrack, just mallards alone. How many of them have farm duck DNA in them, where they're seeing a difference in their migration patterns?
Oh yeah, that's
So it
really
might be in
damaging.
front of them there, but they're just not seeing it, and not enough people are exposing it.
The duck numbers this year were not very flattering either.
Right.
Yeah, the mallard thing that you were referring to is really interesting. For the people that don't know, basically what's happening is they released a bunch of farm-raised mallards with the intent of fluffing up the mallard populations for people to hunt. The problem is they were interbreeding with the actual migrating wild ducks, and they were picking up traits. First of all, those farm ducks are terrible mothers. They don't manage their nests very well. So if they're interbreeding with the wild ducks, now the nests for those wild ducks isn't getting managed properly, so they're not making it.
Right.
And then the ones that do pick up a lot of the genes from the lazy mom, and they don't want to migrate, or they can't migrate. They can't pack on the fat the same way. So it's crippling the mallard population in one of those flyways because of that. And that's
It's one of those things. Like I said, it might be in front of people, but just I mean,
just gotta tell them.
I don't know anybody, in my opinion, or from what I've seen, that has talked about that or tried to express that to the average hunter.
Yeah. I used to raise my own ducks, and I don't.
So it's your fault.
Not
I've been saying
the domesticated version that looks like a mallard is called a rowan.
It's like the cold duck, kind of like the little cold. Is it a cold duck that like people used to tie up and like they used to use as decoys? Wise, you know what I'm talking about?
I don't know.
I don't know. It sounds preposterous.
That,
but yeah.
that sounds
You
real.
never heard it?
No.
See, okay, maybe after the
But
show.
the
Whatever.
ducks that I raised were bad at just about everything. They're good at laying eggs, not at sitting on them.
Right.
And they're good at being made of meat. That's about it. So to let some of anything that's even remotely like that out into the wild that could potentially reproduce
That's scary.
scares me.
Well, actually, if they're reproducing that well, they're good at three things.
Well, I mean, look at even
Screw.
yeah. Exactly.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's rated R show here, right? Even the people that buy ducks from Tractor's Supply or Farm and Home or whatever it may be, and just let them go because they had enough of raising those animals. I mean, how many parks do you go to and there's just farm ducks everywhere? Even a lot of the, I don't know, hybrids people shoot and they think it's some crazy duck. It's just mixed with a farm duck in reality. So it's just, I don't know. It's just one.
Sounds like the Florida Everglades and everything in it.
Yes.
We did a python episode down there, hunting pythons, and for those of you who don't know, there's probably 300 to 400,000 in the Everglades right now. Probably 300 to 400,000 pythons right now. They don't know the exact number, and they've wiped out 98% of all animals with fur. So any animal that had fur, 98% of them are gone, and over 2 species per week were going extinct, just from the python.
That's
Yeah, pretty crazy. But that was because they had a facility for breeding where they were actually using them for selling them as pets, as well as food and their skins. And a hurricane hit it, and they all got out. So, and then there's also people that let them go once their pythons got too big as
right.
pets.
Just like alligators,
You
basically.
do that here, it's fine. But
There's
you
a
do
lot
it in
of
Florida,
tropical-
they can live.
Right.
There's a lot of tropical fish in there that shouldn't be in there, and pretty much the fish have like taken over. You're catching non-natives more than you're catching.
What are
natives.
those, like the suckerfish?
Placostomus?
Yes, the placos or whatever they call them. Yes.
We speared them.
So, I mean, it's like the iguanas even, right?
Oh,
the
yeah.
iguanas, I
They
mean,
hunted and ate iguanas too.
Make
Really?
tacos.
are they good?
Is that good?
They were delicious.
Yeah, they were
Really?
great. It looked gnarly on the grill, but it came out. Yeah, we'll send you that video. That's in one of our History Channel
History
episodes.
Channel?
Actually, we hunted pythons and ate iguanas.
Because you can't eat the python because they're the top of the food chain. So they acquire too much of those toxins that you
I
don't wanna
gotcha.
eat.
That makes sense.
Kind of
Then.
like eating a barracuda longer than 4 foot.
Right. I gotcha.
You start getting too close to the microwave and things go awry.
Right, right. Without getting too far into the, I don't know, DNR or this, that, and the other with like the youth and stuff. How does, you're from Michigan, Jeff, right? I'm assuming. So how does
We grew up across the street from each other.
Two Michigan natives then end up on the History Channel.
You got to start by being real dumb.
Because I mean, that's a big thing. I mean, it's not like just your normal TV show. I mean, it's almost like a dream for people to be on a platform of that magnitude. And, you know, obviously, like you said before, with people, more jobs being like becoming more prevalent in the outdoor industry, everybody wishes to be on TV. Everybody hopes and dreams and wishes they do it full time. But obviously, it's hard.
I got good news and bad news, I guess, to answer it. The good news is that anybody can do it. The bad news is it's really hard. We started, like I said, 9 years ago for the first 4 or 5 years. The same team was with me then as they are now. We obsessed about getting better, but at the end of the day, our show was still pretty low production quality. Sponsors weren't interested in working with us, and we really weren't interested in working with sponsors because when I looked at the shows on Sportsman Channel and Outdoor Channel and Pursuit Channel, they were all just infomercials. And it never, I'm like, you know what you don't see on Netflix? Infomercials. Right. Ever. And the same thing with History Channel and Discovery Channel and the big networks that we wanted to be on. So we focus solely on production quality and solely on storytelling and developing ourselves and working really hard to get good at that. We burned through all of our money. And by the 4th year, we were almost completely out of money. I had dumped in a bunch from stuff that I had done previously. And we ended up still just doubling down, and everybody went a little bit deeper and sacrificed everything. And eventually we got one big sponsor that was willing for us to do organic product placement. And to this day, I'm so grateful for them. It's Ram Trucks, actually. They're still with us since day one. It was a huge one. It was our first 6-figure deal, and it was monumental at the time. And they literally believed in what we were doing from the conservation messaging. When the other, and I say this because the other big three, they either let us on or ignored us. And Ram stepped up because of conservation. That's why they liked us. So I always bring that up because I'm passionate about it. But then from there, we ended up being able to double down, and we learned nothing. Spent it all on equipment to make ourselves better again. Doubled down on storytelling, went all in, and then we produced the show to even a higher quality, and then we ended up going from like Pursuit Channel to Sportsman Channel to Outdoor Channel. But with the same goal the entire time was to have the highest production quality, the best storytelling, so that we could sell more hunting and fishing licenses so hunting and fishing could exist in the future. And by doing that and knocking on the door, we were told no, and this is not a made-up number, 599 times by major networks. The 600th one was a yes. I don't know and that's not an exaggeration. We have email proof, and a lot of people think that that's a made-up number. It's not. 599 times, including History Channel, told us no 13 times. Well, 12 times. The 13th, they said yes.
Really?
So I guess what I would say to any individual that is dedicated to something is, I call it my action list, and I do this to this day. You will look at a notebook. They hate it. You'll look at my notebook every day, and it'll have 40 actions on it. And every single day, I do 40 things to better the company. 10 might be towards, what we're doing with our sponsors. 10 might be for production. 10 might be phone calls I should make. Today, one of them is a podcast.
Right.
With you guys. So what makes our company better? What drives us forward? And how do we get to that yes?
Right.
And what we did, we took framed mean emails from people.
The mean ones are our favorite.
Put them up all over our office so we could look at it every day.
Well,
you guys look like you guys look like a travel vlog. You guys look like you film with GoPros. You guys look like, okay, see you tomorrow. And then we show up again tomorrow. And I'm nothing without my team, and they had the same mentality I do. And I get goosebumps now even thinking about it. It's like, the truth is, absolutely anybody can do what we've done.
Right.
They just have to be dedicated. And then once we got History Channel, we went from like 4 sponsors to 17, and everything changed, And then we stayed true to who we were. Organic product placement, in the sense of like, we use the stuff in the show, sure, but that's because we were going to use the stuff in the show.
Right.
And we won't work with any companies that we don't want to work with, and we've never lost one. The other thing that I would tell people is, if I was to analyze the market, and I'm not going to go too deep into this, but if I was someone new in this industry and I analyzed the market, I would know that every company out there has to post 2 to 3 times a day on social media. So how do you help them with that? Because that's their number one problem. That's what I would tell a young person now, is how do you solve that problem for them? And then that's how you get your foot in the door.
That's tough, even for us. Like with doing it, friends and family and stuff like that, having the amount of content to even post and relatable posts even is very tough. No, that's really. How did you guys come? I mean, with growth, there's obviously a lot of people that are trying to hold you down with everything.
You got no idea. The 599 no's. We have a Bible verse in every episode, so that alienated so many companies immediately.
Right.
Take that out, we'll give you a deal. Well, I can't take that out because that's all I have is my relationship with God. So
Well, you don't want to take away from what you believe in
Yeah, no,
yourself,
I won't do
right?
it.
Because you're not yourself at that point.
Well, the other thing is, I know well enough if you read the Bible, as soon as we would have took that out, everything would have been taken away.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's as wholesome as it is, it's also selfish. I know that without God, you're nothing. So you have to fear him too. So, yeah, that never really crossed our mind to do that. On top of that, we are clearly conservatives. Like we don't talk about politics, but it's like
It's all
what do we-
around
yeah.
us. We just talked about it
It's
for
like-
yeah.
It's like, what do we? We're clearly that. We have guns in the show. We live in a market where, on like major networks, not obviously Outdoor Channel or Sportsman Channel, those smaller
Right.
guys, you can do whatever you want. But on major networks, you're not even allowed to advertise guns. You're not allowed to advertise ammunition, scopes, anything that could even be remotely considered that. So how do you work with these companies to know that they're reaching an audience big enough? And how are you reaching the different generations? That's why we did the vlog as well as the main TV show,
Right.
because it's different people, different types of content for different people. But I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's even like for us, wise doing this, like we talked about, like losing properties and people assuming things.
When you say losing properties, like you were hunting properties you had access to, and then people find out you do this, and they're like, "You're making money off me." They decide that.
they were
They
assuming
decide
that.
They decide that.
Yes, without coming to us or whatever, they're assuming that we're guiding just because we shoot a lot of geese or ducks out in the fields or whatever. So they're assuming we're taking out clients and not telling the farmers that we're making money on their land, which absolutely is not what we do. Like I
Sure.
said, taking friends and family out. That's how we ended up losing
Success
that.
has puts a target on you, like we were talking about before the podcast, in a weird way. And the success is like, I find out stuff about myself every day that I don't know. It's like
Right.
people are like, I heard you, I thought you, and it's like, I didn't
Right.
know.
Well, we just thought you were a guide, right? I mean, it's the same
Right.
thing. Right.
Yeah, because someone told you that I was.
Right.
I'm not.
Right.
I don't even know that. We do so many different things that I'm not like an expert at anything except maybe ice fishing. It's like I'm not
Maybe
an
duck
expert
hunting.
because maybe duck hunting, but Colton knows more than I do, and he's 22.
Yeah, that's
It's like so.
It's very tough. Very tough to the hardest part I find with it all is you try to overlook a lot of like the downfall side, like the negativity of it all, and just keep on pushing. But in reality, behind the scenes, it kind of weighs on you a little bit to where it's like, man, are you even doing the right thing, even on pushing forward? And it's tough for like the younger generations coming up and trying to make a name for themselves.
This is what I will tell you too. We were recently dealing with some backlash on some of our content in like really ridiculous ways.
Mm-hmm.
I'll even tell you. So we have an episode called Fishing Hawaii, and in it we used a song that the people in Hawaii use all the time, and it's like, I'm a little bit country. It's called country reggae, and it's a great song. And it mentions whiskey in there. Now, I've never had alcohol before. He drinks, not
Right.
like he has a problem, but
Right.
he'll occasionally have a drink with dinner.
Thanks for
I don't
covering
have
for me.
I don't even think anything's wrong with alcohol, by the way. I just don't
It's
drink.
not for you. Yeah, right.
We got so much backlash from the Christian community because they're like, you had a song with the word whiskey in it. You're a
Really?
disgrace. You're sickening. I mean, you should see the emails and stuff that we get.
I believe it.
And they just, go nuts. I mean, the other thing is like when we were in that same episode, which apparently I was just having a good time. We went to the volcano, and they believe that Pele lives in the volcano, and that's like a goddess. And they like go there, and they'll put like fruit out and different things like that as like a
Gesture or whatever.
to Pele to bless their year or
Yes.
whatever. And what's interesting is that what their ancestors knew was when the volcano explodes and the ash goes everywhere, that's a ton of nutrients that creates growth, and it's really good for their ecosystem. So they would like pray, and then the volcano would go off, and they'd be like, and it's actually going off right now on the Big Island, which is interesting, but they would like pray to that. So we talked about that. That's what they believe. And then we got so much pushback from Christians mad at me because we talked about that, but really we were talking about the ashes, and we're like, this is what they do, but this is, this
It's
is
almost
the
like control burn,
yeah,
right?
and,
Like,
and by the way, they believe it the same way we like Christians will go trick or treating here, right? Like we go trick or treating. It's not a big deal. You
Right,
dress
right.
up as a ghost or whatever. It's like, that's like a pagan holiday that we technically shouldn't be celebrating, but you just kind of do it.
Right.
It's not a big deal. It's like
part of the
you don't
culture,
really
yeah.
believe that there's goblins running around. You're getting candy. It's a good community
Right.
event.
All
Somebody-
kids
Our
are doing
church
it.
does a trunk or treat, right?
Right.
So it's like at the same time, why are people so upset that because that's how they believe in Pele is the same way that we believe in whatever Halloween is. It's not that we like think there's a goddess in the volcano. It's that that's
Just bringing people together
that's
at the
a
end of the
tradition
day.
that their ancestors did.
Right.
And so it was like the pushback we get on anything we do now is so weird. And you go back a little bit like you're a kid, like you got a bad report card and you got to go home and you're going to get in trouble and people are telling you you're wrong.
Right.
So like you grew up your whole first 18 years being told you're wrong and having to be like, yeah, I must be wrong. I'm being told that by adults. And it's almost like these 21-year-olds, 22-year-olds, it's still fresh in their mind. They haven't developed the right to say like, you know what, they're wrong. You know what I mean? And push back. Like when you go on Facebook and you make a post and then people are mean to you, that doesn't mean they're right. It means they're probably miserable in their life. So you have to like
Yeah.
think about it, pray about it, focus on it, but build yourself up so that when the hard times come and the mean people come, because they're going to come, that you're ready for it. You know?
That's what's crazy too. I mean, like go ahead. You got something to say?
Go ahead.
I don't know. I just lost my train of thought. But yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense.
Haters
Just,
gonna hate.
yeah, they
gonna hate.
They for sure are. It's just, I don't know. Even
We're
like,
talking about your farms being taken away from you because people thought you were guiding when you weren't.
right. And even that though, it's like what they don't have, they wish they had. So they're going to try to take away from the people that are succeeding in it all.
And those people never put in the work.
Never.
No, and that's
The
the biggest
haters never
thing.
put in the
Like
work.
me and Chris, I mean, we've been driving like crazy even just for turkey season this year, just scouting. When for me personally, like, I'm not even going to be pulling the trigger on opening day. Like it is what it is. I'm not doing it for that. I'm doing it because I love it, and it kind of goes back to where I don't know too many people even my age that are doing it to that extent. So going back to like the social media standpoint of people posting or the likes and stuff, I just wonder numbers that way, if that makes sense. Like going back to if they're hunting because and they're that into it because of the likes, I guess. I just rambled on and I don't even know what I said.
That makes a lot of sense. Though.
But
We got it.
okay, that's all that matters. That's all that matters. But it takes a special person to take time out of their own day, even on Facebook, to write a negative thing about you.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
you could have just made someone's like life that much better compared to just down talking somebody for asking a simple question.
We rank them. We say TikTok comments are the most ignorant. Facebook comments are the second meanest. YouTube are the absolute meanest.
Really?
And Instagram is just fluffy
Instagram.
BS. Yeah.
Which one? There was one that we got, and it was either YouTube or Facebook. There was a guy. He was going through all of our posts and just thinking of something mean to put.
It was really
And
great.
I don't remember what
It
the
was
picture was.
Facebook.
It was me in the woods doing something, and he posts, "I can tell you're stupid because of the way your face looks," or something like that.
So some people make sense. I mean, it's like,
We love those because as a group of guys working as close as we do, we roast each other all the time.
Yeah.
So when
Right.
other people get in on it, we're like, why didn't I
It just
think of
adds fire to
that?
the fuel.
But if you do it to our face, we'll
if someone-
destroy you.
If someone messes with somebody on the team, it's a whole nother ballgame.
And that's a hard thing too. We talked about targets on our back, like as hunters wise, and that's what gets tough. Like when people are posting piles of geese, like just spread out all over the place. I almost feel like that's putting a bigger target for the other side to look at us in a negative way. Like we shouldn't be giving them more ammo to use against us, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see that.
But then taking away from the actual
But-
hunts
but,
is
man,
bad.
I guess it comes down to like a lot of hunting issues are like morally driven. We were talking about archery hunting with a turkey.
Mhm.
And the truth is that someone who's very proficient, works really hard, gets really good with a bow, and is dedicated to doing it cleanly and ethically and has his shit together, I would never want to tell him not to do it.
There's always going to be mistakes in that, even
Sure.
like even with a gun,
But
right?
with a gun too, right?
Right.
Yeah, there's plenty of crippled birds from guns. Actually, maybe
maybe more because
you get to a weird thing.
well, that's a hard thing too because the more are
Pushing it too far.
used, but more are used than bows. It's almost like electricity wise at work.
That's
more
fair.
people get killed with 120 because it's used in houses and stuff.
That's fair, and I mean, you'd have to do a study in order to figure it out. And if our government ran it, it would cost $62 billion. So, the truth is, though, is like I tend personally to err on the side of like I'll talk to anybody about morals and ethics as far as like, for instance, turkey hunting with a bow. It's like you better be really good because if you're not, that bird's gonna fly. You're never gonna recover it. Recovery is much harder. You have to be proficient. I'm gonna have that conversation. I'm gonna teach my son that one day when I have a kid one day. I'm going to teach, everyone that I interact with that way. But I tend to err on the side of I'm very cautious of giving the DNR or the government any kind of control over how I hunt or fish. And I never want to be the guy who's like, well, I'm good enough with a bow, but you're not. So I tend to err on no laws, but let's educate ourselves as hunters. As far as the goose picture, it's kind of the same thing where it's like, man, if I took my dad out and we hit him big, and I don't get to hunt with my dad that often, to take him out would be a huge opportunity. He's never goose hunted before. That would be the coolest thing. I'd be so proud of it. Getting a big grip and grin with a bunch of geese would feel awesome. And if people want to shit on it,
I mean, I guess I guess I go back towards like the pages that people look up to in that aspect of it all. Not the, I don't want to say average Joe, but the average person that goes out and kills a limit. I'm saying like more of like the platforms that people are looking up to, or more of the like the targets wise.
Everybody's because even us on History Channel, and I don't know how many followers we have on Instagram, so that would be a stupid thing to say, but
I think like 40-something thousand, but who's counting?
Sure. Let's say that.
I think it is.
But like I'm still just a kid from Madison Heights that grew up with my best friend since we were 5 years old hunting.
He still looks like one.
I get a beard when I want it.
Yeah, sure.
Give me a couple weeks. Yeah. So yeah, that's the. Yes,
it's hard. It's a very hard.
Who wants to take away someone celebrating such a beautiful thing? I that's what I struggle with. It's like
it's hard. Yeah,
we put targets on our back, but what do we do? Say anybody that posts more than 6 birds is going down.
You can't do that at all.
I think what we might be better. I get the counter argument, and even if you and I agree to disagree, I err on the side of I think people should do what they want in the outdoors.
No, I 100% agree. Go ahead.
I think so too, but respect the animal. Like if you're gonna post a picture,
that's key.
Make sure that blood's out of there. You don't. That's ammunition.
That's a big point that I missed. Yeah,
but there is blood in hunting.
That is true, but not everyone needs to see it. Or
that's
wants
the other
to
thing.
see it.
Like so, you show like I remember the first time I saw the Wild Within. We keep talking about Steve Ranella, but the first time I saw Wild Within, Steve Ranella shoots a deer, doesn't kill it, and it's wounded. And it's like, and it's freaking out, and he has to go shoot it again. And I remember at the time being like, I can't believe they showed that. Holy crap. Anti-hunters are going to have a field day with it. But at the same time, if I'm trying to bring people into hunting and I bring them in and that happens.
It's reality.
And they're like, wait, what is this?
Right.
That is true.
It's like, that is the reality of hunting. There's blood in hunting.
It's such a hard thing because I like what you were saying, and it's a respectful thing, like having a deer lying there and blood and like the guts are all hanging out if it's a gut shot or whatever, and then you're posting a picture like that.
You know, it's like, what do they say? You know it when you see it. You're like, know when a picture. I don't think necessarily the number of geese. I don't even think necessarily blood, but you know it when you see it. That it wasn't respectful.
And I guess that's
more of the point.
Yeah. I don't know.
The funny thing is that's not always the younger generation. It's the guy that don't know how to work his damn phone.
Yeah,
that is true too. That is true.
Top level, like
you got a flip phone, Jeff?
Yeah, you can see it, right? Doesn't he look like a flip phone guy?
That's why I asked. That's why I asked, man. Yeah. You fly fish?
No, I don't.
You got, what is it, Patagonia hat on?
We don't wear Patagonia. That's a Green Outdoors hat.
Is it?
That's a Green Outdoors hat.
Yeah, yes. Slab. I knew that one was. But
I just won my first fly fishing rod at a DU event last year.
Really?
And I haven't taken it out yet.
Did you fly fish when we went to Maine at all? When we were at the pond?
I attempted, but
yeah,
all I learned is that I don't know how to work
it. You can rat nest really fast.
We grew up trout fishing a ton. That's like what we did. Mm-hmm. But we would always use 5-foot ultralights with number 1 Mep spinners.
I'm gonna act like I know, but I have no idea. Yeah,
it's the best, dude. It's
really?
Like full on exploring. It is the closest thing to hunting you're gonna get in fishing. Like, so you're going up in northern Michigan. You're getting out in like May, June. You're going out. The rivers are absolutely gorgeous. You can get away with a lot of times on the warm summer days. You can just wear a bathing suit with. You want to wear like not leggings because that would be a girl thing, but like
Well,
long johns, like Under Armour
yeah,
type.
yeah.
You'll want to wear that with water shoes and a bathing suit, and you have your vest on, and you're just using a little spinner bait. Okay, number one spinner, a little, and an ultralight rod, 6-pound line, and you're flipping under banks, and I'd even take you and show you how to do it. And once I show it to you, you'll be ruined for life.
Be
though.
hooked.
Then, and I will tell you, you hook into a 12, 13-inch brook trout and pull it out in the vibrant colors, and then you gut it right there, you clean it out, and you take it and you cook it, and you have that meat.
It's probably delicious,
It's like eating a
man.
gold jewel out of
Oh,
those
man.
streams. Cleanest water you've ever seen in your life. You want to just drink out of it. You're exploring.
But don't.
You're caught.
Yeah.
Unless you have a life straw. But you can go miles and miles on the river, spend the whole day out there just exploring, learning the waters, learning how to assess a river and be like, okay, I'm looking at this cove here, this turn on the river. I know the deep spots right there, the dark spots right there, that log's right there. I'm going to put it right there. Your cast has to be perfect. And it's got to be perfect on the first cast, or they'll be like, something's going on.
Right.
But if you get that first cast in there and you turn and that rod goes thunk, and it's an ultralight and they're using the stream to help them, it's a I just get fired up thinking about it. It's the best.
The best part is walking around a bend when we're even. We're both fishing. I'm fishing this side. He's fishing this side. We get around a bend and you see that spot.
And you just know.
Go ahead.
Is it your turn or my turn?
It's like,
You did the last one. Okay, I'll do this one.
I don't know that I've ever caught a brook trout where I was surprised when it hit. It's like you have to earn the cast.
Right,
It's
right.
not putting a bobber out
That's
and hoping
pretty
for the
sweet,
best
though.
or trolling or bottom bouncing. I mean, you are 100% like, I need to get under that and then boom, fish on.
It's almost like sight fishing to an extent. I mean,
Yeah.
like you got to see that spot.
We've sight fished them for
That's
sure.
crazy.
So then you think there's nothing in a hole because you beat it up so many times, then you walk past it and you see two fish skirt out and you're like, come on now with that.
So how does two Michigan inner city, I'll say Madison Heights, kids grow up and want to start Greenway Outdoors? Like, how does that even like begin? Like, you guys are on the History Channel. How does that even like grow into that?
Yeah, like from the base up. Well, the one thing that's beautiful about our friendship is we've lived across the street from each other since we were 5 years old. Not particularly wealthy. So what worked for us was we would pool our allowances. So we bought our first John boat together. You know, I saved up 100, he saved up 100. I said chilling the most on the side of it because somebody it was a piece of shit, and we had to flex seal it like in order for it to stop taking on water.
Just saw this boat in half.
Yeah, exactly. yeah.
Bottom was a screen door.
Yeah.
But our dads and his grandpa took us fishing, and then our dads took us deer hunting, and then that's kind of like where they're and ice fishing. And that's kind of where their expertise kind of ended. Like my dad never waterfowl hunted, never turkey hunted, never did anything like that. And I remember I went out when I was a kid, got my first deer. My dad made me sit alone. I think I was 12.
Oh man.
Made me sit alone and went through the whole thing with me, gun safety and everything like that. But he was like, it's time to be a man. And I was like starting late with deer hunting. I had already been fishing, obviously my whole life. So then I'm like out there at 12, ended up getting a deer my first morning, mid-pee, by the way.
Wow.
Uh-huh.
Speaking of that, I might have to go take one pretty soon, but go ahead.
Hands out, guns out, yeah. And then I shot my first deer, and I remember in that moment walking up to it, and then like I was waiting for my dad to come over, and I was like emotional and confused and like
Right.
you know, buck fever and like just overwhelmed. And then he came over, and then he's like, "All right, we're gonna gut it." And I remember being excited about that, little freak. And then we gutted it together, and he walked me through the process. I had the best dad. Walked me through the whole process. Pulled out all the guts, got everything ready, even emotionally, even thinking about it now, and then dragging it back, getting it back to the truck, and then finding out he had actually shot a 9-point already.
Oh, really?
So we put in my little 4-point, which is basically a spike buck, next to his giant 9-point that was like a behemoth. And it's like a cute, and then him and I get pictures with it. I got this little deer, and he got this giant, you know, best morning of my life. And from that day on, I was like, well, this is what I'm going to do. And then going home, and then he taught me how to process it. No butchers did we take it to. It was all done by him and I. He walked me through the entire process from start to finish, and it took all day. And then I ended up getting it to cook it, and then serve it to my mom and sister and him and
That's
everything
awesome.
like that for
See
dinner.
the full process of
And
it
I was
all.
like, this is what I'm going to do. So then I was like, wait, you can shoot ducks?
Right.
You can shoot a duck? What the hell does a duck taste like? We got to go do that. You can hunt rabbits?
I will never forget. So
This
one
is a
of
good one.
one of our buddies from high school took him out duck hunting the first time, and then he came back in, and he comes up to me and he goes, "Hear me out. We have to pool our money again. we're going to figure out a way where
Harson's Island, the first
we got to
one.
get all this stuff, and it's going to be expensive, but we're going to go stand out in knee-deep water at 4:30 in the morning, and we're going to shoot ducks. It's like, okay.
How old are you guys then?
Probably 15?
No, it
16.
was,
No, I would have been just 16.
yeah, we were definitely in high school.
16, I'll say.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Because we were just on the edge of being able to drive then.
Yeah.
With our piece of crap cars that could barely make it to Harson's Island, much less pull a boat. But,
Yeah, you get the boat on the roof and whatnot.
yeah. Crappy John boat. Like I said, it was a 12-foot too. And then we have my dad's 1958 Sea King is the motor, 3.5 horse that never worked.
Mm-hmm.
So we're always rowing.
Yeah.
We had a kick in one time on Harson's Island in a marsh zone. We had a kick in. We got in the water and had to like frog kick our boat in because that was the best option.
We made it about halfway before someone was like, they came up next to us. They're
Thank
like,
God.
You guys need a tow. We're like, you guys, please.
But we didn't have the money to get a motor, so that's like how we got by for duck hunting. But so in those adventures, like, you want to do it again tomorrow? Yeah, we'll just spray some carb cleaner in there, and we should be good to go. You know, it's like you just do it again, and then eventually you actually get to start killing stuff. And then we started doing small game hunting because it was like we just want to do anything we could do.
Right.
And then we started following like the Michigan progression of like in April and May you turkey hunt. We didn't get a turkey for our first 5 years. You know, and then, okay, we walleye fish, so we got to make friends with people with boats so that we can go out walleye fishing because we're never going to be able to afford that. Then we started going, you know, then we're like bass fishing in the summer. Okay, then in September, we're going to goose hunt. And then in October, we're going to archery hunt and we're going to duck hunt. And then November, we're going to rifle hunt and we're going to duck hunt. And then December comes ice fishing because back then you could ice fish in January and February. And then it starts again. And then that became our life, you know. So that's how it started.
One of the very first pool our money story was trout fishing with ultralight rods, and we got GoPro Hero 4s. Yeah,
Ones that are like super wide when you look like when you get the video.
the fisheye. Yeah.
If you go all the way back on our YouTube, 9 years, you will see that the first video is a very shitty GoPro video of us trout fishing. And I'm like,
no idea. No idea what we're doing, but it worked out.
Yeah, and then eventually you just never stop and you just obsess about getting better. Listen to David Goggins every day. Do that. That's what we do. Yeah.
Who's gonna carry the boat, man?
Yeah, exactly. Every day.
Who's gonna kick the boat into Harson's per se? It's gonna be your own David Goggins.
That was the conversations we've had have been hilarious in those situations. I think part of it too is like having somebody that's like, since we were 5, we just did everything together.
Right.
That was like we've experienced.
Made sense.
Yeah, it's just you just do life together, kind of. You know.
That's like when me and my dad first got into waterfowl. I got this little rowboat, and it would be like me, him, and my uncle, and this little 10-footer that I'm actually selling like this weekend.
You want to pool our money?
Yeah. You want to kick into Harson some more? Or what? But it'd be us 3, and then we'd have a jet sled behind us full of our decoys, and we just roll to the islands, and it's just one of those things where you're like looking back at it and seeing like how like the progress that you've made. It's pretty crazy to kind of rethink how you got to the point where you're at.
When we get on one of our boats now, we have a walleye boat, we have a giant bow fishing boat, which is incredible. And then we've got a new boat that is it's like a duck hunting specific marsh boat. It's the Prairie Wings version of, it's a new tracker boat that just came out.
Oh yeah, we've just seen those.
I just sent him a picture because he's looking for a boat. I was like, dude, this boat looks sick.
Yeah.
The high roll gunnel walls.
We're partners with them, so we might be able to help you out with something there. So if you're serious about it, I can help. But anytime I'm on one of those and I like probably annoy the people that we're with, I'm like, man, I'm just so grateful. Like there was a point in time where I thought this would have never been possible, and now I did it through something I care so much about. But it all just goes back to that list every day of 40 items, getting them done, and then you can have anything you want. I truly believe, I think that 40 list thing, that 40 action list is the key to life, like in general. Like you do that, you'll have anything you want, as long as the 40 actions on that list match what you're trying to do.
No, I mean, and I think it is also important to surround yourself with like-minded people that also see the same goal. So you're not just trying to reach something that not saying that you can't do it by yourself, but you need the backbone of it all, right? Like you need good friends, you need good family to be able to.
That's what you guys are, really.
Right. I will tell you this, something I've learned too in the years of developing the business, that you are only as strong as your weakest link.
Mm-hmm.
So it may seem like you've got 2 or 3 good core guys, and then there's that one who's kind of half in and half out. Get him out immediately.
Right.
And you can be friends with him, but get him out immediately. Nothing but savages. Because if you don't have that, I'm telling you, you're only as strong as your weakest link. And I've seen it over and over again where there's like unforeseen possibilities of why. It's like if you manage the company properly, you can have some weak link. I'm telling you, if you're chasing a dream, the weakest person is as far as you can go.
That makes sense.
Period.
Makes a lot of sense. I'm sure the big topic, what everybody wants to hear, is the old gassing geese. That what you're famous for lately.
I guess.
That has been like the topic all over the state lately with the Michigan DNR wanting to gas geese and just throw them into the landfill. Do you kind of want to just give a little bit of backbone?
Yep, I did an interview on CBS News, which kind of kicked off all of this. There is certainly some outspoken people. There's a Mid-Michigan Waterfowls group, and the guy that runs that is very well-spoken on the topic. And there's been plenty of people well-spoken on the topic. I just happen to get good press on it. And essentially, this is what's happening. The Department of Natural Resources historically had done like relocation programs for geese that were in problem areas. We're talking about like golf courses or communities where hunting isn't an option. However, these geese are a problem, and there has to be at least 100 of them, okay? And they has to already have done a lot of the other steps, meaning, no, we can't hunt. Yes, they'll do like nest destruction, which is essentially like freezing the eggs so they're never born. So it's killing.
Stomping.
Yeah, don't call it curb stomping. They get really upset when you say that. I thought that was like you're killing them. And it was actually funny on our podcast when we had the DNR woman on who's actually a fantastic individual. I don't know that she'd say the same thing about me right now, but I do actually
give it a little bit of time.
I talked to her. She's warmed up.
Yeah. But in talking with her, I was like, well, at the end of the day, like whether you're curb stomping them or you're freezing them, it's like death is death. And one is possibly even more humane because it's faster. I mean, if you were going to have to shoot your own dog, you wouldn't freeze them.
No,
you'd want to shoot him in the head
quick and done.
So I actually think curb stomping was more humane, but regardless,
there's studies they're working on
doing nest destruction, and the idea is the nest destruction actually makes a little bit more sense. Not that I'm like super pro-abortion, but the nest destruction makes more sense because those geese that are born and hatch there know that that's like their home base, and they will probably come back there the following year. So by doing nest destruction, you're preventing the future year from them coming back. So I do understand that.
It's the same as salmon. It's called philopatry.
Whatever that, yeah.
Yeah, he's the word guy. I say all the fluff, and then he says that.
Yeah.
But anyhow, so they do nest destruction, which I'm not a fan of either, but at least it makes more sense to me. Then what they'll do is, if all else fails, and they're like, the geese are coming back, we did nest destruction, there's too many of them, they're pooping in our lake, they're causing, they're pooping all over our yard, and we've got immune-compromised people that can't go outside because of it. We've got, these things are annoying. They're attacking kids. Whatever
when they close down Metro Beach because there's an E. coli outbreak because there's too much poop in the water.
Correct. So like those sorts of things. So that happens, and they're like, all right, we've got to go in there and round these geese up and relocate them. That's what they've been doing.
Right.
And take them somewhere else. Now, what they're claiming to me, and they do have some backing to it, so they're saying that the relocation programs, the geese come right back. And that might make sense to people when you say it out loud, like, because geese are known to migrate from different places, go to the exact same water. They'll be there the following year, that sort of thing.
Right.
But anybody that hunts knows that geese aren't on the same field every day. There is an X, but they might not be there the next day. They might be somewhere else. They might go somewhere else for different reasons. So my argument was that if you took these geese and put them in a trailer where they had absolutely no view of the outside, and you drove them 4 hours away to state land in a new area that had food, habitat, and no human pressure, do you mean to tell me that they're in there like the guy from Taken with their eyes covered, and they're like, one left, 2 clicks right,
yeah, no way,
1 click left, and then blah, 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 and then take them and then let them go on those lakes where they have plenty of food, plenty of water, plenty of habitat, and let them go there? Are they going to find their way back to that pond 4 hours away without having flown to the new location. Because their argument is like, well, we know they migrate south and they migrate north and they find the exact same places. And my question is, and nobody could answer this, I said, are they magnetized to the location? Like, they know where that location is no matter where you release them? Or do they know it because they traveled from one place to another?
See, that's a hard thing because, like you just said, like the nesting grounds are going to go back to where they feel comfortable about with like the nesting, right? Those birds don't know where they're migrating to, but they also go back to that same location where they're nesting. Like we just shot a bird from North Dakota, I think it was this year. That bird's probably not going to go all the way back over there, but like the geese that are flying down from Hudson Bay that go back to Hudson Bay every year for like the molting, the non-breeders, they're going back every year. They're not knowing maybe the same location, but they're still going back to like that general vicinity.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like
they were never put in a car blindfolded.
No, but they also, whether it be the winds or the weather, also don't know they're getting steered off into a direction that they don't know where they're off to as well. So I feel like that's kind of a debatable thing where I almost feel like you might be right with like the
Liam Neeson.
I don't even know. Like they just, I think there's a lot of unknown about waterfowl still. Whether like, do you think waterfowl could smell in your?
I hope not.
But like that's a big thing. How do they know it's a fresh cut cornfield?
Right.
So like it's a lot of unknown. I feel like do they like the polar, like the magnetic fields or something? Who knows?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
You know, so there's a lot of unknown where, like you said, there's no saying they're going to go 5 miles or 5 hours north or east or west, whatever it may be. But then they also still end up in the same spot where they nest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So how do they know that?
There were when they used to do where they'd snatch them and take them somewhere else. Sometimes they would take them to a state game area 2-3 hours away. Sometimes they'd take them to a different state.
Yeah, Detroit goes down and drops them off in Erie,
and
for example.
What they're basing that off of, and this is I've talked to I followed up with the lady that we had on our podcast, and she was hoping to get me some more data today, and then I left my phone at the office, so I don't have it in front of me.
Well, way to go, flop a floor or whatever. You were just
Nice to have them off of it.
Yeah, but they said that while they were doing the basically catch and release, they were finding that some of the geese were banded. They weren't banding them themselves during this process, but they would take those banded ones, take them to Wisconsin, take them wherever they're taking them. Maybe not necessarily the following year, but sometimes the following year, sometimes the year after. That banded bird would find its way back to that same field where it hatched.
Well, I feel like that's where it goes back to like the whole the unknown about the whole waterfowl species.
Who knows?
Who knows? Like the field.
This is all an offshoot that her and I got into on the podcast, where I was saying that there's definitely a possibility that some of the geese taken 5 or 6 hours away. There's a lot of geese. There's a lot of states that wish they had our geese right now that would love for us to take them there. But regardless of the relocation program was expensive. And as you can imagine, right, you got to round them up, put them in there, then get them going, take them somewhere else, blah, 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 blah.
They don't go willingly either.
No, they're little jerks.
Right.
So they had the impression that too many of them were just coming back. And I made the argument that it's probably not that those geese are coming back. It's that is a prime piece of real estate that geese in general want to be to. And I made the argument that when I go hunting for geese, I set out a bunch of decoys. Now, those decoys look like other geese to geese, right? So they come into me in a field that maybe they weren't going to go to otherwise, but they're sucked into it. Why? Because there's other geese there, right?
Right.
So my argument was that by actually, they were saying that their big fear now, the reason they stopped the relocation wasn't because it was expensive, wasn't because they thought maybe the geese were coming back. It was actually because of the bird flu issue. So that we're saying, like, we don't want to move geese on the landscape because it could spread bird flu.
Right.
So because of that, they're not doing relocations anymore. And I said, well, hold on a second. If you're worried about bird flu, if you're moving geese that could or could not be sick, they don't know, right? They're not going to test them.
Right.
If you're moving them to a new area where there's not a bunch of geese,
They're by
wouldn't that
themselves.
be better than leaving them in an area that's attractive to geese? Because to me, they're acting as a magnet to other geese as they're there in a prime location. Other geese see them and go, wow, let's go check that out.
Right.
I argued that they're going to actually interact with more geese by not relocating them. So you're more likely to spread bird flu because they're going to interact with more geese because you're leaving them in a hot zone. It's just like the X. When we go hunting, we put out decoys. You've created an X now, and you're keeping it there, and now you've got live decoys helping you. Or relocate them to a new area, which is more likely to spread bird flu. Now, to me, I bet some situations are one way, and some situations are another way. So then you have to get to the next point. And the next point is they say, okay, if they follow all of our protocols, we're not going to relocate them because we're worried about bird flu. We're going to leave them right there, acting as a magnet for other birds. Don't get me started. Then what we'll do is once the number gets over 100, we will allow the permits. Now, something I want to defend the DNR on. People keep saying, well, that's what our dollars are being spent on. Actually, no. So what's happening is the Department of Natural Resources gets a call from these people. They have them do the egg curb stomping. They have them do all these different protocols, putting up flashers, trying to scare the geese away. They ask them, hey, is hunting a possibility there?
Right.
And oftentimes the answer is no. So they can't hunt. They've done the flashers. They've done the curb stomping. What do we do? Well, the only thing left now is a lethal option. And that's where we get to is they want to round them up. They want to stuff them in a dumpster type contraption and then gas them.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people ask, well, what about the meat? Well, then it gets slung into a landfill because they don't have a way to process it properly in order to be able to donate it to people. Now, it's not because of the gas, because it's CO2.
CO2.
So
the meat isn't toxic in any way, which is, it's kind of perfect because then great. Now you could take that meat and you could donate it to, homeless shelter, or you could, there's all sorts of stuff you could do with it.
Which to me, and I left this in the interview with the DNR girl. I said, we're not going to agree on whether gassing geese is appropriate.
Right.
I believe that there's no possibility that I'm going to be okay with it. However, she had brought up deer culling and those sorts of things. I'm not a big fan of those. But if hunters were doing it and the meat was being utilized, you don't get as much pushback. Right now they have sharpshooters doing it or the police force or whatever it might be, but the meat is utilized. Okay, so you don't hear a big ruckus about it. Some hunters are pissed,
right?
But it isn't like this.
It's because they wanna.
Yeah. So now you have this goose situation. And I said to her, I'm putting it on your heart to tell you that you shouldn't do a single Hitler goose gassing unless you know for certain that not a scrap of that meat is going to get wasted. And she said, no, not doing that.
Yeah. See, the hardest part for me is like what I read anyway was they're doing it more in areas where avian bird flu. They're assuming that avian bird flu is prevalent around that area.
And avian bird flu is real.
100%. And then that's when, like when they said like throwing it away into the landfills and stuff. And then when I was reading about the gassing in those areas, I don't agree with throwing away meat, but throwing away the meat that you don't even know if it is consumable.
Part of it, just like the deer, are tested. Part of the process to make sure the meat is consumed is testing it.
Okay, so
that's prevented.
This is the biggest thing too with a lot of people. It's not told. They're just seeing the bigger picture of it all, or like the main what they want to hear. Nobody knows or hears the ins and outs of everything. Nobody knows about the CO2. They just think of actual gas, right? Mm-hmm. So being able to express it and explain it into further detail is very important for not only the Michigan people all over the country.
Yeah. One of the things that Caitlin, who was the one we talked to, she really wanted to stress the fact that people hear that the DNR is going out and they're just gassing geese. There's not a quota. They're not trying to control the population with this. They're not even trying to control bird flu through this process. Their only goal is to remove nuisance geese that they can't remove otherwise. So they haven't done any this year. They don't do it until the molting starts, so that they can't fly away. So it's number one, easier to round them up and whatever. But if they had to have this program, their quota or their goal is 0 because they'd rather just leave them. But because they're responsible for, handling the resources, and these people are calling and complaining because their employee can't get into the building because a goose made a nest right outside their industrial park. something has to happen. And if nothing else can happen, then this is their last ditch effort.
Because I also heard that they're not relocating because of stress on the bird itself anymore.
No, that wasn't really. She didn't push that at all.
Yeah.
Okay, I was gonna say because
That hasn't come up in any of my conversations, and I've been challenged by 50 people. So
Yeah.
okay, I was gonna say because then what's banding geese? Because that's pretty stressful in itself too. So
and being in a car, I mean, I get car sick, and then I made the joke to her. I was like, man, carpooling with like 100 geese, and they're like gonna stop and get snacks.
Gonna need a big-
like every rest stop they got to hit. No,
Stop honking.
right.
so then we get back to it is like, I think it's morally unsound to gas a bunch of geese. I think that anybody, and I would invite anybody that disagrees with me to
Who
be
is the
part of.
PR person that approved of that?
I would like to see you show up. I'd like to see you netting the geese. I like to see you putting that stress on them and hearing them honk and scream and cry. Then I like to see you stuff them, because they're not going to go in easy, any of these chambers. Load them up, and then I like to see you start pouring gas in where it's going to go in unevenly. I'm not a scientist, and I'm not a chemical compound specialist or anything like that, so I can't argue this. But I have a strong hunch that the gassing process doesn't go that smoothly.
Yeah.
I think that I think they're capable of holding their breath for a long time, whether they know to or not. I think getting the right dosage is very difficult. CO, not CO2, but CO is not approved by the Veterinary Association and a bunch of other groups that are like talking. You could never do this for like a cat or a dog or anything like that. They wouldn't approve it. They did say that this was the most humane way to do it. I don't know that I agree with that. I actually don't agree with it, but I don't know if there's a better way specifically to do it, but I don't think it's going to be clean. And anybody that disagrees with me, I think being a part of that for one day would make you feel very different. And then take it to the landfill and then dump it off and tell me that you feel good about yourself. So then what do we talk about? How do we actually solve this then, right? We know relocating is argued against my better judgment that they're just going to come back, or we could spread bird flu. It's not a good idea to relocate them based on their merit, not mine. I disagree with it, but that's regardless. When you're a hunter and you buy a hunting license and you buy your federal stamp and all of this, and you go out and you're having trouble getting access to lands, and you're hearing about these people gassing geese when you would do anything to go out there and have a great goose day so you could have a great corned goose on St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah. Irish Day.
Yeah, my mom's birthday also. And our last name's Green. But you want to go out and harvest these geese, and then you hear about them, and you know you're paying for your license, and you're doing everything. You go to your Ducks Unlimited dinners. You donate to Delta Waterfowl. You're a part of the solution, right? You're a good person for waterfowl. And then you hear about them gas chambering these geese and then throwing them in a landfill. I think that's the ignorance of that is you're portraying to people that animal is nothing more than a nuisance and not even worth its weight in meat. That is what you're portraying to people by doing that. I have a real issue with that. Because first things first, too, is like, people need to know how good goose is. The Christmas goose is still an excellent thing. We saw it in the movie Christmas Carol, right? Yep, in Christmas Carol, the Christmas goose, everyone was excited about it. It's a delicacy. It's an incredible meat if you know what you're doing. So we want people to know that, and you're basically telling them it's not by portraying this. Like, but these ones are a pain in the butt, so gas them and throw them in the landfill. That's a terrible message to give out to people, and that should be one of their main concerns. The other thing when you're a hunter is you know that on September 1st, that if you're caught with 6 geese instead of 5, you're not going to be able to hunt anymore, right? But they'll gas them. Okay. On top of that, you know that you can't have more than 3 shells in your gun in the early season when the only thing you could hunt is geese and teal.
Right.
But you can't have any more than 3 shells in your gun, even though the bag limits are in place, so who gives a crap how many shells are in your gun? But you're not allowed to have more than 3 shells in your gun. You're going to have your gun taken away, maybe your truck, and maybe get put in handcuffs too.
Do whatever they want.
Oh, okay. So I'll fund it. I'll pay for my license, and I'll follow all your rules in the early season when we're targeting the resident geese that you're claiming are such a problem that you need to gas them. Why are my bag limits higher? Now, a lot of people will push back and say the Department of Natural Resources isn't responsible for setting the bag limits. That comes from the federal. So the federal tells them what they're allowed to do.
I thought with the National Bird Treaty, though, in Michigan, that Michigan does that.
The National Bird Treaty has all kinds of parts to it, but just like in New York, they're part of the treaty. Canada's part of the treaty. We're part of the treaty.
Is that
different?
Then
It's a different flyway,
okay.
sure. But the point is, there's treaties all across. when it comes to waterfowl, and we're gassing them, and a lot of people say, well, isn't that against the treaty, that the gassing of them in general? But there's all kinds of exceptions and things for resident problem geese. There's all kinds of exceptions. So they can go to the national and say, hey, Fish and Wildlife, and say, hey, I need a permit in order to be able to give permits to gas geese. Is that okay? And they go, yeah, of course. Of course it is. However, don't you raise that bag limit? I don't agree with that. I think the DNR should be asking. And I asked her on the podcast, I said, when's the last time you asked? She's like, well, we've asked in the past. That's how we got a bump to, I think the early season is now 30 days. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, it's been 30 days for a while.
For a while, but it wasn't always, right?
Right.
It wasn't always 5 geese.
Right.
It wasn't always, we didn't always have an early season.
There's always 5 geese. Well, not always, but recently it was 5 and then 3 during regular season, like 4 or 5 years ago, and then it switched to 5 and 5 now.
What's the point of that, though? Change can happen. So we know as hunters, hold on a second. My argument is this. They say they've tried everything with hunting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what kind of pressure have you put on these areas? I'll give you an example. I went to Troy, Michigan. There's 2 golf courses there, Sylvan Glen and Sanctuary Lake. And they're privately owned now. I think it's Billy Casper Golf owns them. And they have a goose problem. The golf course has been around since 1918. I think it's the oldest in Michigan. There's ponds all over the property. It's a golf course. There's geese.
Right.
Big goose problem. They wanted us to come in and hunt during, January, February, March, get rid of those geese in order to knock down the resident population, nuisance geese.
Which you can.
Huh?
Which you can.
Sure.
If you have a nuisance permit.
However, the city of Troy didn't allow it because they said that there's no firearms be allowed to discharge here.
Okay.
So you're talking about a golf course. Many, 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 many acres. I don't know the exact amount, but it's a very big golf course, 2 of them. Huge. Tons of room. Easily, you could be safe easily.
Right.
So what kind of pressure is put on if we're going to get to a point where we're going to gas chamber those geese, though, that's okay, right? We're going to get to that point when it is, by definition, safe to hunt there. And by definition, I mean 450 feet away from a structure. You're following all the rules that we have to follow when we go hunting.
I mean, even writing in on paper, like, you don't have to worry about me if something happens, you're good.
Sure. And we would all sign it, right?
Right.
I mean, we'd all sign it. We'd all be there.
100%.
The funny thing is we'd have to follow the rules of our bag limits still.
Oh, yeah.
Which is...
Even during the nuisance season? Really? Okay, I didn't know that.
Which is interesting. So if we went there and hunted, we'd have to have our licenses and everything like that in order to be able to hunt those properties that way. The nuisance tags, there are some differences with that, but talking about hunting specifically, getting permission like I was going to. So I'd have to get a big group together to make a dent and have to go for a few days, but it would have been a beautiful thing. So we weren't allowed to because the city of Troy says, nope, no firearms allowed, even though it's completely safe. And it's like, why do they get to...
Determine that?
Yeah, why are they getting to determine that? And it's like, well, the DNR is like, well, that's not our fault. It's like, okay, but you're able to get a permit to gas geese. In the past, you were able to increase our bag limits. In the past, you were able to increase our season. So I said to her, have you asked for an increase recently? And she's like, oh, we did, I believe a few years ago or something. Hold on a second. This gas chamber thing is brand new. And you didn't knock on that door first?
So I don't know if it's brand new, though. I think it's been going on for a little while, hasn't it?
They stopped the catch and release program in 22.
Okay.
So it's only a few years.
They're in a pilot program now.
Yeah.
However, if you listen to the podcast, I got 2 different answers on if they've ever done it or when they're going to start it.
Okay.
So I'll leave that to who it is.
There was an I don't know if it was like some kind of emergency thing, but they've been doing the gassing since 23.
Okay.
As an emergency measure because of the avian flu, and honestly, with everything going on with chickens, it is kind of an emergency. But this pilot program is them like, okay, well, we have to have rules on this. We can't just do it willy nilly. It has to, and even then she also wanted to hit on the point that there isn't a quota, and they've done it very minimally. And again, only when there is no other option. I want to say she said there's only been 5 on average, I think 5 or less instances per year in the whole state where they've had to do this. And overall, each year there's been less than 1,000 geese overall taken via this method.
Okay.
But now they're in a pilot program where this is going to be,
now is it more now?
You're going to see a massive increase, and as the goose numbers continue to go up too. So my point is, there has to be something done about land access, and I do believe that landowners and people. Why is it that cities get to? Because like, let's say I wanted to fight that war. I'm in for a couple-year battle with the city of Troy. Mm-hmm. I'm probably having to get it voted on. I'm probably having all this stuff happen. Meanwhile, it should kind of be their right. It's their private property. They've got plenty of room. It can be done safely by definition. It's not right that right is treaded on.
Determined on that.
So that's problem one. And as a hunter, the average hunter is not going to know what the DNR is responsible for, what Ducks Unlimited is responsible for, what Delta Waterfowl is responsible for, what the NRC is responsible for, what MUCC is, what the federal, they're not going to know that. So when they're buying their hunting license, going back to the point about possibly increasing them, and they find out they're willing to gas geese, but in the last couple of years haven't asked for an increase on the nuisance resident geese and extending the season, the first thing people say is like, the DNR is not in charge of extending the seasons. They're not allowed. They're the ones that have to ask for it. They're the ones that have to push for it. And if we're at a point where we're gas chambering them,
I feel like we're at that point.
300 geese, 300,000 geese, and you told me there was supposed to be 220 to 240,000 or whatever the numbers were, and now there's 300,000. Well, we've reached a new point, haven't we? So wouldn't it make sense to extend the seasons? Well, the DNR is not allowed to do that. The DNR is allowed to ask for it. That's why we have longer seasons now than we did. They can ask for bigger bag limits. For the early season, they can take out the shell limit like we did with snow geese. I'm sorry, but when the population's this big and you're gas chambering my resource that I pay for with my license, it's time. You better exhaust every option. And I think if you did, and if you exhausted every option, meaning fighting for our access, meaning fighting for bigger bag limits, and you made it known, how about having a little PR, by the way, but make it known that you're fighting for those things, for the shell limits, for the bag limits, those increases, make it known that you're fighting for those, because they're not. And we don't know that they are. It sounded like they weren't when I asked her directly in the podcast. She felt maybe under pressure.
She didn't say anything about that, so I don't know.
So ask for those increases and fight for those increases because we need them. If you're going to gas chamber geese and you're so worried about avian bird flu, increasing those bag limits has never made more sense. And if you're not going to do that, but you're going to start gas chambering them, which I think is wrong in the first place, you're going to get pushback.
Do you think that raising the numbers per year, let's say to 10, right?
Per day?
Yes.
For early season.
Well,
or a extended late season. And the reason why I say that is because you have to watch. The migratory birds are different birds.
Right. I mean, we're getting a lot of Hudson Bay.
Sure.
Right. So let's say early season, we go up to 10. We'll go 15, just like New York.
Sure.
Do you think that will make a dent as big as you think it will? Because personally, I don't, because of the amount of people. You said yourself, the tags are going downhill. The properties that people can get onto are becoming fewer and fewer. I don't know if that's going to make a big enough dent to what people think. How many times do you
two-part answers to that?
How many times do people go out there and shoot their limit every single time? Not very
as many
often.
as you'd think. Yeah.
Right. So I don't know if it'll be that big of a portion that would help that out.
Correct. However, think about it from you and I are so involved in this. So take a step back and try and put yourself in a normal hunter's position, like, because you're so involved and you know so much that it's difficult for us to do that sometimes. But it's like, okay, well, hunting won't make a big enough difference, so you guys still better follow our rules and you better not go over, or you'll be in trouble. Right. But we're going to start doing
that part.
That's where it gets to. Is like, will it make all the difference in the world? I don't know that. You don't know that.
Right.
We don't know that
Until the numbers show.
But until you exhaust every option for hunters who pay for this, you don't have the right to kill our geese.
Correct.
That's where I come from. So it's like, maybe you're right. Maybe by increasing that and then creating a protocol, a program of some sort where hunters can collaborate and work together and sign petitions, kind of like there's different organizations, like when a new howl.org, when a new anti-hunting legislation pops up, they send out an email blast to everybody. Hunters can get on and sign it, and then it helps stop them in their tracks before they can get going. It's a pretty cool organization. What would happen if something like that was created for hunters? And maybe this is something I'm just going to have to do because the DNR isn't going to do it or whoever else isn't going to do it. But create that program so that the city of Troy has to say yes. Right. They don't get to tell us no. So it's like, I think it's an access problem. I've proposed a few different ways that could be fixed, but I believe it's an access problem. And I believe it's you better follow our rules, and you do what we tell you. We're your boss. We're your police force, and you better listen. But we're going to go gas them. We're going to allow these people to do whatever they want.
And I want to
That's
say,
not cool.
too, that I'm not disagreeing with you,
I know that, I know
I'm just saying, like, different
Devil's advocate,
viewpoints.
yeah.
I think that could be done, though. I don't know how it is city-wise, but I know statewide, when we had MUCC, and they said if you have enough signatures, it gets on a ballot.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know how beneficial that would be in the city of Troy, because
But that's what I'm saying is like that war, like, yes, that would be the way to overturn it. Like, let's say I dedicated my life to fighting Troy on this. It might be a 5 or 6 year process before, yes. Why do they have the right to tell us no?
That's true.
You know what I'm saying? That's where I struggle. It's like, it's the same thing as like when fighting gun laws or fighting anti-Second Amendment stuff. It's like, yeah, I'll fight it. But why am I fighting the Second Amendment? What is this? You know what I mean? Yeah. That's where I get to. But I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying that's there. The problem.
No, it's there. It's just going to take forever to do.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if there was a thing where, like,
individually, too.
Yeah.
We brought up the iguanas in Florida. They're shooting them right behind people's houses.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Granted, those are pellet guns. And
why couldn't you do that with geese? But I'm sure one of the ammo companies could come out with some sort of thing where, like, it could be like a birdshot situation.
Just a minute. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Though it's just one of those things where maybe we're looking at it like as they're shutting the whole thing down. But if we propose a different way of going about it, they might be more open to it.
Yeah. If there's like a toned down version of hunting, I never thought of that. I give you a lot of credit. Kyle.
That's a great point.
It's probably
it's another option.
Your beautiful name.
Probably.
But that's.
And I had a green monster today.
What if there's a less distance-driven way to harvest a goose that would allow hunters to go in areas that otherwise they wouldn't be able to, and they were harvesting them and they were eating them for the family. And I'll tell you what, you do that 2 or 3 days in a row, those geese aren't going to be there the next day. It's just the way.
Well, the thing is, though, too, with those guns, it's not like you're going to spook all the birds out of there.
Right.
You might shoot 1 or 2 times on that golf course, and those birds are probably going to be gone. Because let's face it, those birds are probably roosted on that golf course as well.
Yep.
So the likelihood of them flying in.
There's a reason they say don't shoot the roost.
100%.
Yeah.
I tell you what,
I like that, Kyle.
There is
but make them loud. Whatever it is, make it extremely loud.
You're going to have a point to force it.
But not long distance.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Yep.
I think if you were to just take a couple geese and make corned goose with them, and then take that into the city of Troy, and then have them say no.
Maybe that's how we get them.
I bet that's
Everybody loves some luck.
There we go. There we go. I think you're right, though. There's so many different options, and until they see everything out or hear, like, even every option, you can't just go to that.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Then what was tough for me was it was like in the conversation and the way that the DNR portrays it, they're like, well, this is when we've done everything we can do. It's like,
don't express that when you haven't.
By definition,
right.
And I said this in the thing, and I don't think she got what I was getting at because it like is alarming to people. But I said, by definition, trying everything with hunting to control nuisance and resident geese means you've had a 365-day season with no bag limits and no shell limits. By definition, that's what trying everything is.
Right.
Now, I'm not saying you should try that.
Right,
I'm saying by definition, that's trying everything.
Right.
Okay? And they're like, well, we can't because of the federal, and we can't because of this, and we can't because of that. It's like, well, what have you asked for this year? Because you're sure pushing this down our throats. What have you asked for the hunters? And that's where it's coming to is like, you know, I went to Idaho, and I told you this story before the podcast, but I went to Idaho and I talked to the Department of Natural Resources there, Fish and Game. Guy's name is Brett High, the best biologist I've ever met in the entire United States of America. And he would be like, don't say that. That's not true. But it's true. He's like the humblest, nicest, kindest person possibly we've ever worked with. Anyhow, when I was talking to him, I was talking about some of the laws that don't make sense in Michigan. We can't hunt doves, the sandhill crane issue. There's plenty of laws that don't make sense, whether it's Department of Natural Resources, federal. We put it up to a vote. The NRC, you know, we can't hunt coyotes at certain times of year because the NRC doesn't care about any, you know, the NRC is just like, just insane. So there's a lot of laws that don't make sense. And what Brett told me, he said, what you'll find is Department of Natural Resources that are extremely driven by biologists have a really great relationship with the people, and ones that are driven with like a police force mentality don't. So he said you can go state to state and see that the states that have the most, and while we're there, we're ice fishing with them. There was like 20 people that came on and off the ice while we were like filming and stuff. And they're like, they'd come up and be like, look what we got. And they're having this conversation with the Department of Natural Resources. Us, it's like,
Here it'd be like, no, stay away.
Don't make eye contact.
Get
Maybe
away.
walk around, even if you haven't done anything wrong.
Right.
And I don't want that. I started this podcast by saying that my goal is to sell more hunting and fishing licenses. That's my life goal, is to help the DNR.
Right.
Here's the thing, though. If I'm going to push everybody to buy hunting and fishing licenses, I have to hold them accountable that they're doing everything they can for the hunters that fund them. And something alarming that was said to me in that podcast, if you listen to it, I said, what would happen if 95% of hunters disagreed with you gassing geese? She said, we do it anyways. So, okay.
So our voice doesn't matter.
We will do what's, and then she doubled down and said, we'll do what's best for the resource, regardless of what hunters say. So they're feeling, and I said, how is gassing geese the best thing for the resource?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. The way that people word things like that, it's very...
95% of hunters have a problem with something and our voices won't be heard.
Yeah. That's not really a good feeling as a outdoorsman.
Yeah, and you know what a majority of the comments were? If you look, that my interview on CBS News has, it's bordering on something like 10,000 shares between all the platforms.
Mm-hmm.
And a huge amount of the comments said something that I never expected to see and really bothered me because of what my life goal is. They said, that's why I don't buy a hunting license. Those con jobs aren't getting my money. That's like one, but that made up probably, if you go there and I'm like, geez, don't post this on my thing because I want to sell hunting and fishing licenses.
Right.
I just want them to do what's right for hunters. But B, like, what an idiot to post that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the DNRs
Put a target on your
That's
back.
why I hunt my geese illegally.
Right.
Well, it's like, but that people are getting to that. That's not.
It's a scary thing.
No.
Now, why do you think? Do you have any anything on that?
Go ahead.
He goes, this guy's a mess. I got nothing to say.
Why do you think more people don't look at like the sandhill cranes as like the nuisance permit, where you can't pick them up, you have to let them lay when you shoot them, like if they're doing crop damage, or even like the mute swan situation where they're going through the metro parks and stuff on boats with, guns blazing and just, you'll see them floating all over the place. Granted, that's probably not all from like the shooting aspect of it all, but
swans are a big issue too because they break up duck eggs.
But nobody's mentioning like the sandhill crane situation when you got to let them lay. It's a ribeye in the sky.
We've got a viral video going out right now about it. It's going crazy on TikTok and people can't believe it. To your point, sandhill cranes, if you can get a nuisance permit because those suckers can eat.
Right.
They get a group of them
and
together.
they dig like with their the beaks
they're
wise.
kinda
Yeah.
jerks, but they're beautiful. I think they sound like dinosaurs. I think they are everything.
I mean, they are dinosaurs, right?
Yeah. Everything a pterodactyl was
Right.
is in a sandhill crane now, which is pretty cool. They're known as the ribeye of the sky, incredible eating bird. And in Michigan, another law that makes perfect sense is that you can't hunt them, can't sell a license to help with conservation for them. But because they're such a problem and there's such a great bounty of them, and you're starting to see them everywhere. You're starting to see them more than you see turkeys.
Yeah.
By far.
Yeah. Especially go like middle of the state wise, like they're all over the place.
Yep. And if you have a nuisance issue with them, you can get a permit, no problem. And then you're able to shoot them. But because they know they're such a precious resource and they don't want people getting those nuisance tags for the wrong reason, like eating them.
You gotta let them lay.
You got to let them lay or burn them. Now, I believe in God. I said that before. And I believe that we're all going to have to count for what we do. And I will tell you what. I think everybody that is gas chambering geese and throwing them on a landfill, I think that'll be on their list when they get to heaven on Judgment Day. I think they'll have to answer for it. I think the same thing with sandhill cranes. And any human being that goes up to heaven and shot those sandhill cranes and let them lie because the government told them to, I think that's still going to be considered a sin. Just because your government told you to doesn't mean it was the right thing to do. And that's where it's like when you have laws that atrocious, that offensive, that disrespectful to the resource that God gave us, how can anyone take you seriously on anything? Because it's like as soon as if someone tells you like an off the wall theory, like no one should have guns anymore, it's like you're gonna put everything they say through a filter now because you're like they're an idiot. So when you have a law like this about sandhill cranes, you're like, oh, you guys are idiots. I'm not gonna believe anything you say now, and that's what laws like this do. And like I said, I think it's for the geese. I think anybody involved in that slings them on that pile is going to have to face God and say, yeah, I took your resource and that's what I did with it. I truly believe that that's coming for those people.
I just don't know why like that Sandhill situation isn't talked about more, or isn't brought up more, because I mean, you can get a ticket for not picking up any animal that you shoot, right? Unless you're really not allowed to go on that.
Want waste.
Right, like wanting to waste tags.
But
Unless you can't go on that property and you're not allowed to go on a private piece of property. That's a whole different thing.
Sure.
But yeah, the wanton waste aspect of it all,
that's one
that
waste.
isn't getting talked about.
So a hunter
all.
gets in trouble for wanton waste, but they'll kill 100 geese and put them on a landfill.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's not wanton waste.
Exactly. Yeah.
By definition, that's not wanton waste. Rules for the what is it?
Rules for thee, but not for me.
I always struggle with. I want to use it more, but I can't.
Rules
get it
for
right.
me, but not for you. Wait.
Something along those lines.
So the sandhill crane thing is something that bothers me, especially because I want to eat one. I want to eat it so bad, and in this state, I cannot break any law, and now I've painted a bigger target on my back, so I follow every rule to a T. But that means I wouldn't get a nuisance tag because, by definition, I would have to sin to leave it live.
Right.
Now let's think about this. How amazing would it be to treat sandhill cranes as the new turkeys, sell hunting licenses that help with the conservation of the bird, and then allow people to harvest one just like they do turkeys, just to start out, get the population where it should be, and actually put money into the conservation for the species. I think you'd find there'd be more, and there'd be a great relationship with the bird and the people.
I mean, I even got a better one. How about we do a draw system for the sandhill crane season and for the mute swan season, because they're already killing them anyways. People put, you know how many people would put $100 in for that raffle?
Right?
Oh, sure.
Just to get the opportunity to harvest either one of those. And
in your home state.
Let's say you can kill a handful, not even just the one. You know how much money that would bring into the state?
It blows my mind that people are willing to pay someone to sharpshoot or to come in and do these calls when there's people ready and willing to not only pay for a license or a draw to do this, but if you put it out there, they'd even pay to get certified to do it if you wanted them to. There's
the DNR is hurting for money. Why?
Yeah.
This is what better way to do it.
Here's something crazy too. So me and Trav are the ones that actually started off the Great Lakes Outdoors back in college. So 2016, I think it is when we all started this.
16.
Yeah, and he lives out in Kalamazoo area. A DNR officer actually told him that the reason why Michigan doesn't have a sandhill crane season is because they're determining what sandhill crane that we have here. Have you ever heard anything?
I have that. There's different
like a subspecies.
Yeah, I've never heard that.
And it's like those ones are in danger, but these ones aren't. And it's I have.
I think it's a load of
I don't know
crap.
enough to speak on it scientifically, but I have heard it.
So that's the only second person I've ever heard that. Not saying you know anything about it or whatever, but second person that has a little bit of knowledge of even just like hearing that from somebody.
There's sure a lot of them for them being endangered.
There's that, and I actually think it just hit me. I actually think they look like something else, and they didn't want people mistakenly shooting that other thing that's very close to endangered. I think is what it was.
Snipe? What else has that got a long beak like that?
Or maybe No, I think that's what it was. I'm not. I mean, I think
it's
pretty easy to tell them, but I think that was something like that. But I don't know enough to say, so don't quote me on that.
No, yeah, for sure. It's just one of those things. Like I said, it's just crazy. And we talked about like different officers and different laws or the laws that they're going to press, whatever it may be. I don't know. I just think moral of the whole conversation, in a lot of conversations that are had about the outdoor industry, there's not enough that is explained into details where everybody understands it to the fullest and everything is exposed to everybody. People are just seeing the surface level of it all and not really getting down to the nitty gritty of it.
Yeah, if you see me get involved, I've looked at every angle. You know, if I start spouting off, I'm very sure.
Right.
It's like, and if I don't know, I'll say I don't know. Like the sandhill crane thing about I really think it was something. They look like something.
I mean, it could even be like a blue heron or something that people are getting confused on.
Something similar to that.
You know,
I don't remember what it was, but there was something along those lines.
I mean, I don't know, because then you can get even to there's a goose species out in like Washington or something like that. The I forget what it is, but you're not allowed to shoot those geese, but you're allowed to shoot regular Canada geese. Like it's weird. Like how can you be so sure
There's times where you can shoot the Canada geese, but you can't shoot cacklers, and cacklers are just small Canada geese.
It makes no
How
sense.
big that look to you?
Right.
They're dainty little things.
That's why you bring like a little person with you, and then that way you hold that bird up, and it's like that's
that way you can still get the photos. So
exactly. You're all good. But you got any other questions? I mean, we've been talking for a while. There's so much more to even talk about. I mean, like we had a podcast before the podcast, which was awesome to even get to know you guys. But
no, I think I really appreciate you guys coming in, and I think a lot more people need to get involved and get to know more things about the outdoors and whatnot. I think that's huge. Get more people in. And
do you have any topics that you can think of that you would?
The only thing is, I wish we had duff season.
Yeah.
I don't think that's ever going to come back.
Yeah, and you're probably right. And the reason why you're right is because for whatever reason that was put to a public vote.
Yes.
And when it was either 21 or 23% was the yes vote on opening a dove hunting season, and that vote kind of cemented its fate. And I talked to Michigan United Conservation Club, MUCC, who you guys just did a podcast with a week or two ago. When I talked to them about it, they said it's a lost cause because they would have to allocate all of their resources on only that and no other program, no other problem, no other issue, and it probably still wouldn't happen. So it's like because it went to a public vote. Like once it goes to a public vote, it's like the public spoke. But it should have never gone to a public vote. You know, we have laws in place that all of these decisions are supposed to be based on scientific conservation and practical common sense, in the sense that we have such a high population, it could sustain a bag limit of 10 or 15 a day per hunter. It's been considered a songbird as opposed to a game species. Yet when you go buy a box of shotgun shells, there's a dove right on it. Yep. Makes no sense. It's not a songbird. It is absolutely. It might sing a little, but at the same time, it just sizzles in the pan just the same. It is a game bird that we should be hunting. But in order for that change to happen, you would need the public to come around to it now, because you gave them the chance to vote on it, which is a dangerous thing. And it's so weird because I'm like such a libertarian at heart, where it's like I want the public to make every decision. I don't want the government having a bunch of control and that sort of thing. But when it comes to hunting, fishing, it has to be based on what's actually happening hands-on in the environment. And it's the hunters that are supposed to hold the Department of Natural Resources, MUCC, NRC accountable to make sure that those things make sense. But we've dug ourselves a grave with dove hunting by putting it to a public vote. One of the things that really pissed me off about that, though, to jump onto is a perfect thing to talk about, is hunters supporting each other. It passed with a 21 or 23% of the public voting yes. So that either tells me hunters aren't voting, which isn't good. Hunters need to be voting. Our voices need to be heard. Otherwise, none of us get to complain in this room. If you're not voting, you don't get to complain. However, they were either not voting or because they weren't going to dove hunt, they didn't vote
care.
yes. Yeah. Well, I don't need to hunt doves. I hunt deer. Right. I don't need to vote yes on that. All hunters need to be supporting each other. We need to have each other's backs. We need to be helping each other. And I'll tell you what, Jeff talked to the woman from the DNR today, and we're continuing that relationship. And we covered 8 other topics after we talked about and disagreed on the goose population stuff. We disagreed on that, but then we covered how to set up a wood duck box properly. People think you just put them up. You don't.
Right.
If you don't put a protective barrier there, you're actually inviting predators to come in and ruin the nest.
And if you put in more than one, there's potential for now all the wood ducks in the area all lay in that one box. I don't. She explained why to a degree, but
that happens a lot out here because like every other dock, they'll have like a wood duck box out there, and more times than not, you'll see a lot more just eggs that just go to waste.
They'll all lay eggs in it, but no one will sit on it, so none of them get incubated, so then none of them hatch.
It was very interesting.
So knowing about wood duck boxes is important. The point is, her and I talked about 6 or 7, 8 other topics, and we agreed on them. So at the same time, my goal is to sell more hunting and fishing licenses. My goal is for more people to get involved in organizations that help with conservation, and that's my job. And also hold them accountable that they're doing what they're supposed to do and representing hunters the proper way. And everybody needs to be doing that. For that to fail at 21 or 23%, that tells us that either hunters weren't voting or they weren't supporting each other. And I think we go make a post about anything, deer hunting, duck hunting, and watch yourself get torched by somebody else in the hunting and fishing industry. We have been doing this for 9 years. you've been doing this for 9 years. And when you look at everything, I get more pushback from hunters than I do non-hunters or anti-hunters. So as hunters, we need to be a little bit smarter about that and come together and make people feel included. I think it's awesome what you guys do is, even though it's hard to get traction, bringing new people in, getting them involved in those organizations, just don't ever stop, because that's what we need.
No, I appreciate that for sure.
That's all I got.
Well, I really appreciate. I mean, I'm going to end it on that because that was like perfect. Because
That was perfect. Yeah.
I'll say one last thing. People can't complain if they don't put the time in themselves. You can't complain that Point Malay isn't good enough for you because this, that, and the other, but then you just go there to hunt and that's all you do. You can't complain about this place not being good enough, but you don't also put any time or effort or give back into that location. I think it's very important for people to give back, like you were saying. But like I said, I'm going to end it on that because it was well said. So
I appreciate you guys. It was fun.
Oh,
Yeah, it's great time.
I appreciate you guys coming in.
Again.
Not to cut you off. I'm horrible about that stuff. I'm sorry. But yeah, thank you guys. You guys want to, where they could find you at?
Yeah, everything is just at the Greenway Outdoors. So we've got our weekly vlog that you can see on our YouTube channel, as well as Waypoint TV. The History Channel series is streaming right now, seasons 1 and 2 on history.com, history streaming and on demand if you've got cable. If you can't find it there, season 1 of the History Channel series is now available on Waypoint TV. And then we air every Tuesday night right now.
At 9 o'clock.
At 9 o'clock on Waypoint TV, as well as we're like releasing season 2 on there as it goes. But there right now is a new exclusive episode where we are bear hunting in northern Michigan, in the UP, with dogs. That is the most insane episode. I ended up having to rescue the dogs and shoot a bear closer than you and I sit here right now.
Wow.
Because the bear was so big it wouldn't climb a tree. So
Wow.
that is a epic, that episode has just got such an eerie, cool vibe to it. And we make bear pot pies at the end, and you can't really beat those. Were good. Those were great.
Great.
So that episode's available there. Like I said, our vlog, we've got a weekly video podcast. You can find that on YouTube, Waypoint TV, and everywhere podcasts are found. We've got a how-to series called our Outdoor Education Series. You can see on our YouTube channel. We have another brand new series coming out soon, and then another History Channel season coming out this September, and we will have a wild game party. You guys got to come.
Yeah.
So we have a huge wild game dinner, and it's legitimate wild game. It's not where you go and it's chicken.
Yeah,
we're talking all kinds of cool wild game.
Elk carving station.
Oh yeah, and when I'm talking by a chef that's 5 stars, so we
Wow.
don't half-ass anything. It's at Bass Pro Shops in Auburn Hills. They empty out the entire boat section, everything like that. We sell out quick. We only sell 500 tickets, but we sell out in a blink of an eye. The Gasoline Gypsies will be there live this year. They're the ones who create the music for our show. And then AMC Theaters is actually going to be showing 2 episodes from our Africa series
Wow, that's
on
awesome.
the big screen there, too. That's going to be the weekend after Labor Day weekend. So it'll be the Saturday after Labor Day. You guys got to come.
Yeah, keep us posted on that for sure.
It's a good time.
That'd be awesome.
time.
That'd be awesome. You got anything? I already asked you like 4 times. I'm losing. But thank you guys for coming. And thank you guys for talking about the whole gassing thing. I mean, a lot of people have been asking about that. Thanks for taking the time out of your guys' day. It was a pleasure meeting you guys.
Nice
and
meeting you guys.
Hopefully you guys
Great.
enjoyed it, man.
Go get some dinner.
Let's do it. So appreciate everybody tuning in on this week's podcast, and wish I had another 3 hours to talk to you guys, but maybe next time. So we'll see everybody on the next one. See ya. Perfect. You don't even got to worry about that.
I feel bad.
No, don't even worry about it. That's perfect.